We are recording. There we go. More people are popping
Hi,
in.
welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. It's great to see all of your faces. Wake to class number 2 of our 4-session training, or I guess you could call it a 5-session training. There is a 5th part that's focused on feedback. So session 2 is about beginning to practice empathy circle facilitation. So each of you will have a chance to do an empathy circle introduction and to take a turn practicing facilitating today. So we're getting into it. We did have some questions from the feedback, from your filling out of the feedback forms, and we appreciate your feedback. And in all these classes, we are kind of pressed for time because it takes time to have a turn facilitating and to do these things. So I'm not going to take a lot of time answering questions, but I wanted to just do a little bit of acknowledging the questions that got raised and maybe tell you either some short answers or where I think you'll learn those things. So there's a question about using the chat during an empathy circle. And I would say generally using the chat is discouraged because it's kind of like people talking to each other while someone else is sharing. And everyone is supposed to be paying attention to the speaker during the empathy circle. I would say an exception to that would be a situation where someone has a very poor connection and they can't stay on video, and the only way they can participate is through the chat. And so sometimes that's permitted, but otherwise I would consider using the chat kind of crosstalk, and that's not part of the empathy circle practice. There's a question about the culture of empathy. They are talking last week about focusing on a culture of empathy. And I think, the answer to this could be very long. And I think if you want to know more about the culture of empathy and the values of a culture of empathy, there's a lot of stuff about that on the website. The reason that we talk about a culture of empathy is because there is more to embodying and creating an atmosphere of empathy than just the mechanics of the circle. Now, the mechanics of the circle certainly support it a lot, and if you do them, that will be happening. But it's also true that the mechanics of the circle could be practiced with a very non-empathic attitude. And so that's why we talk about the values of a culture of empathy, to try to help people recognize what those are and to embody them, to have them be part of your practice. There's a question about how do you get people to participate in empathy circles? That is a good one. And we actually will be talking about that in the 4th or 5th class because we recognize that is a topic. And if we have more time in the debrief today, we can come back to that and talk a little bit about that. But it's a big subject, how to get people involved. There's not a simple answer to it. There was a question about use of profanity in the empathy circle. What if someone is swearing or talking in a very charged way? That is, when it's your turn to speak, you can say whatever you want. Strong feelings like anger and whatever, all feelings are welcome. Now, if somebody starts attacking someone in the circle personally, I would still give empathy to that. I would still do a reflection. But if the reflection isn't shifting the person and that's all they're doing is continually attacking people, and as a facilitator, you feel like that's too much for the circle to hold, then you tell the person that, out of having empathy for everyone in the circle, including yourself as a facilitator. Say, this is not working. Yes. I would also say that the empathy circle is not a place for an individual to work out their conflict with someone else, because everyone is there in the circle. So if two people or one person is trying to work out a conflict and it's taking up all the energy of the circle, then you could say to them, the purposes of people were not invited here for you to work out your conflict with this person. So please wait for another time to do that if you're trying to work out a conflict. Okay, I think that's mostly what was asked. It's not an answer to everything that was asked, but it was, I think, the main ones. And so I'm going to throw it now to Shoshana to do check-ins.
Thanks, Lou. Well, welcome everyone. We are going to do a quick round of check-ins. You'll have about 30 seconds and you can talk about some comments you may have from our last session together. You can tell us about your empathy buddy call, how that went for you, or you can give us a short report on how you facilitated possibly an empathy circle in the last week. You want to tell us, some highlights from that. So master trainers, do you want to be included in this check-in? Edwin, Lou, Bill, are you included in this check-in?
I don't need to be. Well, no. Go start with participants, I'd say.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start with Bill. No, that's he's a master trainer. We're going to start with Kat.
Hiya. Yeah. Yeah, I've had a good week with it. It's been quite interesting to see the way the impact it starts to make on you and the way that you start to see things differently when you're communicating. And then with the buddy call that I had with George, he's made some really good points in there about the way that you start doing it as a habit that you just want to do all the time and things like that. And the circle that I held was challenging in the way that there was dogs everywhere. Everyone had all these dogs and it was just animals, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And there was trying to keep them on track with the kind of pattern was a bit of a challenge, and I didn't exactly like being told that we're trying to hold the structure. So overall it was really good, and you sort of seeing the way that it kind of starts to go.
That's great. So Kat got some experience with like a number 8 challenge. Okay, Susan. Thank you, Kat.
Oh, I enjoyed getting better acquainted with my buddy, my partner for the half-hour session. And my empathy circle seemed to go easily. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. George.
Oh, yeah, really enjoyed the experience of the empathy buddy with all that time and less shifting to really go a little deeper with the one buddy. And I noticed that we had, where I had previously been kind of struggling to keep my mind from wandering on different topics as things were raised, I'm finding that now I'm kind of leaning towards empathy more, I wonder what that person is really feeling or whatever. And I'm enjoying that after such a short time in this process of deepening with empathy. My circle went well, and actually we had another call with some members of our community that were kind of hurting, and it kind of morphed into an empathy session really kind of smoothly. I was resisting, to be honest with you, in the beginning, but after several requests, I got the message, and it turned out well. Thank you.
That's encouraging, George. Thank you. Heather.
Well, it was good timing. I had a somewhat rough week at work, just super busy and a lot of change and kind of mistakes were happening. And so it really helped. There's 3 of us that work closely together and we're pretty much all new. And so I think we just really gave each other empathy and allowed ourselves to, I guess, communicate it and then just kind of keep us on a team together instead of against each other. So it's very helpful. And then as far as my buddy, I think I failed. I don't know who I'm assigned to, or I failed my buddy. I didn't contact you, so I apologize.
Well, we have another week to try. Thanks, Heather. Kian.
Yeah, I enjoyed both my experiences. I found with the buddy call, I found it challenging not to just have regular conversation, because you want to just get to know people. But you know, we did the circle. It worked out. And with the one I facilitated, it was pretty easy because I did it with somebody I'm close to, and you know, I had done it, not my mom, but I had done a circle with before, so it was pretty straightforward.
That's great. Brandon.
Thanks. Hi, all. Yeah, I had a experienced very rich and flowy week, I would say. I enjoyed my buddy call where there was some synchronicity around how we've been looking at, I guess, structure and shape and dynamics in intimate relationships. There was some synchronicity there, so that felt good to connect on that. And I don't even know where to begin with my empathy circle. It went, like, I'm really happy with the outcome, but it was super intense. And actually, I'm super grateful for the intensity, because the tension that came up and was held ended up breaking through a layer of tension with my father that's been like there for 22 years. And it just opened up this new door. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. And I might need some support around other things that came up sometime this week. Thank you.
Oh, that's what we like to hear. That's fantastic. Wow, it's big. Okay, Greg.
Yeah, my week was interesting. We had the Veterans for Peace, January 22nd, that was Friday. The Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, we had the demonstration at Los Alamos. And so that's really a big deal. And our buddy call with Diane, I thought that went pretty well. I don't want to throw her under the bus, but I confess that we broke the rules a little bit and chatted some. So sorry about that. We kept to the format mostly. So anyway, that's my report.
Thanks, Greg. Kate?
Hey everybody. I ran 2 circles this week. One about coronavirus and one about relationships. And yeah, I'm just continue to be just astonished at how deep and powerful they are, and how much the participants get from it. And you know, how each time someone is noticing something different about something different and beautiful about the process. So yeah, that's all I've got to say.
That's great. Thank you, Kate. Cody.
Hi. My buddy went great. We didn't know there was a format, so we did a little bit of circling, and then we just chatted. So thanks, Shoshana. It was really awesome. A lot of great synchronicities about just relationships, and it was really beautiful, and even beautiful to share with my partner. But I didn't do a circle, and I'm feeling a lot of shame about not doing that, and like trying to see if I can do one tonight. And I'm like, who's gonna do it? But I'm here.
No shame allowed. Thanks, Cody. Kelly.
Hello. I did, I don't know, my empathy circle that I facilitated was pretty fine, I guess. I think that the people found it beneficial. It was a little, I didn't feel totally engaged with it, I don't think. I took a break from my work day to do it, and didn't really, I don't know. But yeah, my empathy buddy call was cool. We talked about my resistance to drinking the Kool-Aid of the empathy circle stuff, and yeah, I had some interactions with people where I couldn't shut up and wasn't paying attention to what other people are talking about. So probably still need to get better at being a human being. Peace.
Oh, Thanks, Kelly. Diane.
Hi. So I didn't think we were breaking the rules on that call because we read the instructions right out loud at the beginning, and it didn't seem like it was so clear you have to do it a certain way. And I thought it was a great call. It was good for me. I had held a circle the evening before, so it was really a good opportunity to kind of talk about some of the things. And it was interesting. I had a couple from California and an individual from New Jersey that didn't know each other. And the one person from one of the people was, I had to hold ground on keeping the format many times over. And finally, she got talking about how this feels frustrating because she was so used to just jumping in conversations. And then by the end, she and two of the people were interested in doing it again. And the couple sometimes comes to New Jersey and they would love to get together and have coffee or something after the pandemic. So I thought it ended up very well.
That's great, Diane. Coast to coast. Okay, Leslie.
Yes, hello all. I'm feeling really grateful. We've had a very snowy week here in Vermont, and not at all taking it for granted. We have had just a beautiful, just a beautiful covering of snow all around us. My buddy call went really fluidly, and I echo what some have said. I really enjoyed the chance to share in a little bit more depth and get to know other people in the circle. And the empathy circle I facilitated, I fancy was sort of a restorative empathy circle. Two people I know had a falling out. And I offered, by way of the suggestion, I have homework to do. Would you like to take part and help me out with this? And everyone was willing, and it went really well. Understanding and listening happened, and then I just sort of stepped back out of it and let them take it from there. So a positive experience.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Deborah.
My empathy circle went really well. Got good feedback from the participants. They said they found it a really good pace, really positive experience. And I felt that, there was a lot of strong presence there for all of us. And buddy call was great as well. I really enjoyed that chance to have a whole 15 minutes to be reflected back, and then do that for my buddy as well. And then we agreed to have a chat afterwards.
Nice.
So that was cool. Yeah.
Great. Hello, Jane. Where'd she go? Oh, I think she just.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. Okay, my buddy was a healer, so I sent the email to her, but I found that the mail is not well bridged to her, so I think I couldn't contact. So it was a good that, because I just heard that she was so busy, so maybe next time we can have another chance to talk. My empathy circle I had with my some of the gathering people online. With the 12 people I tried, and it went well. And I got a lot of feedback about the positive experience, but I also had some new, like unexpected feedback also. For example, like I set the topics for them to talk, actually, because even they are not familiar with the process without having any topic, maybe they may spend some time to select the topic to talk. So worry about their points. I gave them a topic, and also one of the person there said that the topic was not proper because we were all kind of well-known each other. So some of the things they don't want to expose, they don't want to talk about that one. So I asked them to burning issue, then maybe somebody inside that circle, that group, maybe something they don't want to talk about, that kind of thing, because that is the person that they are, that is a problem to them. So the topic, maybe I need to consider next time, what topic do I have to choose when see the people there. And also I have something, some new feedback I never thought about was that when the listener rephrase and summarize about what you have talked, the person who was the speaker found that he became like objectively can look at what he have said. So when he talked, he didn't realize what he exactly talked, but when he listened what he have talked from the other perspective, then he found that he can see that his opinion and things more objectively. So it was a kind of a good experience what he said. And also when the listeners was speaking, summarizing, then while summarizing, then they found that how many of the judgment and how many of their thinking was involved in the summarizing, they can count. So it was like a judgment counting times. So in this summarize, he already he himself found that I have already 3 times of judgment in this summarizing. Then he could realize of that one. So it was a kind of a very good feedback that I can put into my consideration for my next empathy circle. So I had a very good experience.
Thanks for sharing, Jane. Yeah. Nadav?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
I had a really good, both of the experience was really good with my empathy buddy, Brandon. I really relate to what his experience was like. It was a very efficient way to get to know and to get close. And the empathy circle I facilitated was for 18-year-olds who live in a commune, and it was the first time they ever heard of it, like prematurely heard of it. They dealt with it pretty good. I liked what I saw, and it was a very positive experience for me, and I think for them. And they gave me a really cute feedback for it. So I'm satisfied. I'm happy with it.
Fantastic. And Sharon, you can wrap us up.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Hiya. Yeah, both experiences were really, really good. Really enjoyed them. My buddy call, the same as what everybody said. We did a bit of chatting after the after the circle. But it was fine. It all worked out. It was really interesting. I learned things from that. And then the empathy circle, it went really, really well. I'm so pleased. Yeah, so I think learned lots of things. I've got a long list of things I've learned, some questions for today. But one of the key things that stood out this time for me, maybe observing a bit more, was the nuancing of communication and the way that certain messages are nuanced. So it's like the tone of what someone's saying needs to be clarified when people are, listening back and feeding back. And I found that really, really interesting, because I think that's kind of the source of miscommunication, and that sort of clarification of what people think and believe, what they're trying to say. Someone's trying to say something, it needs to be clearer and someone else to understand. So I found that really quite profound, actually. So yeah, that's me. Lovely to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thanks everyone for sharing. Very encouraging. Glad to hear. And Bill, I'm going to toss it over to you to tell us about our breakout rooms.
Sure. So today we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be practicing how to do the how-to introduction, and then we'll also be doing a practice facilitation round. The topic is, what are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator, or whatever is alive for you? Obviously, you can have some questions in there, and then depending upon your particular, your breakout facilitator, there'll be some time for discussion and things, as well as the practice. Let's see if I forgot anything. That's it. So those are the two things, and I'll be kind of brief here. Lou, Edwin, anything you guys want to add, or Shoshana, or Timothy?
I would say just if anyone has any questions before we go into the breakouts.
Okay. Little question here. I don't see anybody. Does anybody? Because there are two screens here. So if I'm missing someone. Okay. All right. So
Greg has something. Greg has something.
Yeah, sure. What is it, George?
Greg had his hand up.
Oh, Greg did. I'm sorry. Greg, go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to, is when I'm doing the introduction to an empathy circle, is it okay to use notes?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Use whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. And, you know, one of the things I say, I'm not looking for perfection technically. I'm looking for whether a person has an open attitude, a welcoming attitude. So if there are miscommunications, they can be solved relatively easy. So, okay, any other questions? Okay, I don't see anybody. I know there's the two screens. All right, Edwin?
Okay, so we have an hour and a half for this. I'm going to give a 10-minute heads up before the end. Let's see, there's Greg, I had assigned you to a group, but if I can't figure out how to bring you back into the main room to be in the group that I'm in, because Eli can't speak. She has some sore throat issues. So I wanted you to be in my group. So when you get into the group with Luke, can you kind of leave the group and you'll come back into the main room, which is where I'll be facilitating. Okay. So, okay, well, here we go. Let's see, open all rooms, see you in the rooms. Somebody, 1, 2, in, there we go. So let me see if there's Susan, Brandon, Greg, Kelly. Okay, great. Alrighty, so here we go. So what we're going to be doing is you're going to be facilitating an empathy circle. So we have 4 of you, so we have 1 extra person in the group, so it's going to be a bit shorter. Greg, you're sort of a floater too, so you'll have maybe a bit less time. Usually this group would be facilitated by Eli, and yeah, sort of having some sore throat issues, so I'll be facilitating this. We're all saying you got good energy, Eli. So so what we want to do is let me, yeah, so we're a little bit bigger group. Okay, so I'm just having to do the time. So what we want to do is you'll each get a chance to facilitate an empathy circle. You will just say, like, this is your group, this is your circle, you're going to be facilitating it. You give the how to do the empathy circle explanation, you set the topic, you set the time limit, which since we're a big group here would be 3 minutes. And don't choose Eli, because we're gonna give her throat a chance to heal here. And then we're gonna go for about 15 minutes, and then we're gonna have sort of a debrief. Everybody can sort of debrief how your empathy circle went. Our topic is what are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator or whatever is alive for you. You as the facilitator, you'll keep time, 3 minutes time, keep people on track. And then I'll keep track of the overall time, which is going to be, let me put it in here, about, it's going to be a bit, maybe 20 minutes, 20, what is it, an hour and a half divided by 4. What is that? How much is that? Anybody good at math?
It's about 20.
20, okay. Clear, 20, set that. Okay. So you've got about 5 minutes. Usually takes about 4 or 5 minutes to do the how-to. Then you'll facilitate an empathy circle and you just explain what the topic is. You'll keep time, and then I'll let you know when about 15 minutes is up, so that we can get everybody in. So who would like to go first? Do your first empathy circle and just jump in. Okay, great. Brandon, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for agreeing to participate in this empathy circle today. I am your facilitator, Brandon. And so just gonna take a few minutes to explain to you how this is gonna work. So in each round, there will be one speaker and one listener / reflector. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak about, to answer a question that I will give to you shortly, or speak to whatever is alive for them. And as they speak, they will pause in chunks every now and then to allow the listener to reflect back exactly what they heard. And if the speaker is satisfied that they were heard, then they will continue, or otherwise clarify what was misheard until the time expires. And when the time expires, which will be 3 minutes today, I will make a little T sign with my hands to show you that your time has expired. And when the time expires, you can finish, of course, whatever your thoughts are, your last sentences. You don't have to stop right when I signal the T, and the reflector will give their last reflection. And once that first round is complete, the first listener will become the next speaker, and that new speaker will choose among the group who they would like to be their listener. And it will continue like that. And just a little point here, that it's not necessary for the listeners to be selected in a circle. You can choose any listener that you like in any round. There's no rules about that. There's no need to make sure that everyone gets to be listener or speaker or anything like that. So the question today is, what are your thoughts and concerns about being an empathy circle facilitator, or again, whatever is alive for you? Are there any questions before we begin? Okay. Would anyone like to volunteer to be the first speaker? Thank you, Greg. So Greg will be our first speaker. And Greg, will you choose who your first listener will be?
Okay, sure. How about Kelly?
Listening.
Okay. Let me just set up my timer here.
Okay.
And one more thing, when your round is complete, when the speaker's round is complete, you can usually finish with by saying something like, thank you, I've been completely heard, to show that you have been. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Greg, your timer's going.
Okay, so my main concern about being a facilitator of an empathy circle is that I'm kind of a pushover. I really don't like being strict with people. So I worry that I'll get in a circle with somebody who's kind of got a hard edge to them and, you know, wants to push the boundaries all the time. And what will I do in that situation?
So your concern with being a facilitator for empathy circles, one of your concerns is that you feel like you're kind of a pushover, you said, and you're a little concerned that someone with a hard edge in one of your circles might kind of take over the situation. You're not sure how you would respond to that.
Yes, exactly. And there's another thing about it is a little bit like public speaking. Not really, but kind of like public speaking where you're kind of on the stage. And so people are expecting two things. They're expecting the speaker to speak, and they're probably expecting the facilitator to have some sort of control or authority. And both of those are kind of scary situations for me.
So I'm hearing that you have a little bit of a sense that both participating and facilitating in an empathy circle has like an element of public speaking, sort of like performance. So when you're participating, the expectation that you have something to say can be intimidating, but also when you're facilitating, the expectation that you have some kind of you're going to exert some kind of authority is also kind of part of that.
Yes, that's exactly. So I suppose the remedy, if you want to call it that, for these worries is just to keep practicing. You know, I'm not sure, but maybe something that I could just get used to. I don't know.
So you're kind of identifying that the best way to work this out that you can see is to just keep practicing and sort of see where it goes.
I feel fully heard.
Nice.
Yeah, go for it, Kelly. Choose your next listener, your first listener.
Susan, would you like to hear me?
Yes, Kelly.
I think, I don't know if I have a lot of like concerns per se about doing the facilitation. I guess I have more like unanswered questions about what I'm going to do with this. I have some aspirations to try and start like some kind of local meetup that I think empathy circling could be a part of, but I'm not exactly sure how it will play into it, like if it will be just an empathy circling thing or if it will be something that's like a combination of different things, or if it just might not happen.
Yeah, so here you are wondering where this is going to go for you. And you see this as part of how you may move forward with something like meetup. And you're open. May not go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I also, there is like a sort of online community that I'm sort of in touch with, and I want to bring this there, but I also am not sure, again, like I'm not sure how it fits in, and part of it is like I feel like to make it work in that space, I don't know if I can bring, I don't know. I feel like it needs a little bit of like reinvention to like fit into that space. And I don't know if that's something I'm going to do like by myself.
Yeah, so with this online group, it might not fit easily, and you're not too sure how you're going to wangle it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think I will probably talk about my concerns in the next round. So the other concern that I'll just mention, but probably don't really need to get into because it's like I've already brought it up and discussed it. Is like the whole component of like what empathy is and how like it plays into what's going on in this process. And I'm not totally sure about that, but I'm kind of just like trying to be open to seeing about how that kind of works out.
Yeah, so
that was vague, I'm sorry.
that's fine. What is this empathy anyway, and how does it fit in, and how will you move forward with it?
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. How about you, Brandon?
Sure. Thanks, Susan. I'm listening.
I feel a little awkward coming to this. I very much look forward to learning with the empathy circles, to facilitating them. My background kind of lends to this. I taught relationship skills as a psychology teacher in a community college for a lot of years.
So I'm hearing, Susan, that you're feeling a little awkward being here, and you're feeling excited about learning more about empathy circles, and that your background lends to this practice because of your work with relationships as a psychologist.
Yeah. I left the college and was hired as a corporate trainer, and we presented a 2-day listening program for 5,000 people in corporations. You know, it was a privilege. We saw people's relationships and lives change by really listening to people.
Mm-hmm. So you left working at a college and you began working in the corporate world, giving trainings on communication, on relationships, and you saw quite impressive results as a result of people deeply listening to one another.
I see my personal path as fostering listening to everyone's deepest essence and creating compassion. And I'm so thrilled to find Edwin through my friend Bill Filler, who's in our group. And I'm always learning.
So what I'm hearing, Susan, is that you feel that your path is to help everyone uncover their true essence, with deep listening being one of the tools. And you feel really grateful for your friend, was it Bill?
Yeah.
Who pointed you in this direction, and you're also feeling really grateful for Edwin.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I want to be very careful not to act like I have this together, although I've spent lots of time with it. And I have some wonderful experiences in teaching listening that I'd like to share along the way when the time might be right for that. Thank you, Brandon.
So what I'm hearing is, although you want to bring humility to the space, you also want to be able to share your wisdom at the same time. Thanks. Okay, Edwin.
Listening.
One of the challenges that I found in organizing my empathy circle was sort of this tension between not wanting to have an agenda, not wanting to bring an agenda into the circle, and at the same time, like choosing the members of my family who I wanted to join because of like tension that I knew they held between one another, and feeling that it would be maybe useful for that to be brought to the light in an empathy circle.
So I'm hearing that there's a sort of a tension you have. On one hand, you don't want to have an agenda within the empathy circle, kind of leave it open. And then on the other hand is you have family members you have like a conflict with, and you're kind of wanting to bring them together to actually maybe address those conflicts. So it's more of an agenda driven.
Yeah. And my sense is that they're like, it's possible to hold both of them, but it's a fine line. And I just had firsthand experience. I feel like I didn't realize how powerful these were, and I was kind of a child playing with fire. And yeah, inviting my mother and my stepfather to this, they were first very suspicious and very kind of, wondering like why I wanted them to be part of this, because there is a lot of tension that exists between them. And they agreed, but without going into the whole story, they ended up canceling last moment. And my story around that is that they felt scared to face certain things that might come up.
So your mother and stepfather, I think you're saying that you want to bring them in a circle. At first sounds like they were willing to do it, but then they canceled, and you're just suspecting is it sort of fear that they have anxiety about what might have come up.
Yeah. And then I invited my father as a substitute to join with me and one of my brothers and his partner. So it was the four of us last night. And after I invited him and said yes, I thought to myself after getting off the phone with him, oh, should I tell him that he was my substitute for my mother? And I decided not to, because I thought maybe that would cause him to not want to join, knowing that. And also because I felt that bringing the tension of him not knowing that to the circle between us might be beneficial.
So you didn't want to tell your father that he was a substitute for your mother because you were concerned about the tension around that. It'd kind of bring up some sort of tension. I'm not sure I quite got that.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. My time's up. I'll clarify that last part. That yeah, I had the sense that leaving that bit of tension might make things interesting. And so then, but I was torn between whether like that was an agenda or whether that was just a natural part of my relationship with my father. So that was organic anyway. So it was kind of this confusing self-referential loop that I was in.
Yeah, it was kind of a self-referential loop that on one hand, you wanted the tension to be there as sort of something that would maybe be helpful in some way. And weren't really sure if that was really appropriate in a sense, or some question, is that really appropriate, but wanting to do it, but is it appropriate? Right. And you're kind of going back and forth. And
you got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Thank you, Evan. I feel fully heard.
Okay, so this might be a good time to stop. We just have, up to 5 minutes just for a debrief. How was it, the experience, Brandon? Maybe you can just share how the experience was facilitating that and just get feedback from everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really good giving the instructions. I'm a teacher professionally, so that came very naturally to me. And I guess the one thing I noticed this yesterday too when I was facilitating my circle that got a little tricky, I guess, listening to everyone, even when I'm not the listener, but still wanting to listen, of course, and following the timer. And then I guess just being aware of the timer also when I'm listener and speaker. It's not a huge thing, but just an added element that I noticed is a thing. Yeah, otherwise it felt really smooth. I mean, yeah.
So I open it to feedback. Anyone want to field any questions, comments from others? Susan, you're muted.
Time to remember that I'm muted. Brandon, I found your warmth and clarity in the introduction to be really comfortable and clear.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I want to second that too. I mean, all your teaching, I guess, shows, just feel comfortable, confident, even if things get messed up, just the confidence. I mean, not that you did, but just having that confidence sort of carries, I found. So yeah, it's very.
Simon?
Greg or Kelly, you want to comment, feedback?
I thought it was smooth. I think you did a good job. I'm trying to think back. I can't think of anything that was, I didn't see any missteps or anything. It was well done.
Feedback, Kelly, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, nothing was really coming to mind. I thought it was smooth. One thing that may be more like a point of discussion that was interesting was that you said that everyone could, or like not to be concerned with like making sure everyone was like listening and hearing each person one time or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been in some situations where we did do that, and some where we didn't, and I don't know if I feel like it's always been more like implicit. So it's like an interesting thing. I don't know if there's.
I was going to ask Edwin, do you usually give that instruction, that point, or not?
I didn't catch that. What can you repeat that?
Around like letting people know that they don't have to go in a circle, that they can, yeah.
Yeah, I just say you can choose. Maybe I'll just say you can choose whoever you'd like to speak to. I don't say don't have to go in a circle, but that sort of conveys that, right? It's your choice, whoever you want.
Yeah.
It's up to you. It doesn't, yeah.
Can I ask one more question, Edwin, before we go on? So like, if someone, and this happened a lot in my circle with my family, that if someone at the end of someone reflecting feels that they didn't quite catch it, like, do you just let them clarify as long as they need to until they're heard, as long as it has to go?
Yeah, the goal is for the person to feel heard to their satisfaction. So I'll kind of go, if it's like going on and on, they just don't get it. As a facilitator, you might like do the reflection. Depends. Right. It really depends. If the listener is just like super having difficulty, and usually that doesn't happen. It's kind of very rare. But
letting it go for like, sorry.
Yeah, go for another 30 seconds or a minute or whatever to make sure that the speaker feels heard understood to their satisfaction, because that's the ultimate sort of goal. But not that they keep adding more stuff, but just that piece.
There was no adding, but there was like a good maybe 2 or 3 minutes added on, because it was really heavy. So I'm just imagining when things are heavier, then it might be necessary to allow that.
Yeah.
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 So I was wondering what the protocol was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's kind of variable. You got to kind of feel into it. The thing is if it's a conflict situation, you start giving people extra time. Other people, others like, hey, how come they're getting more time? I want more time. So it's that sense of fairness, kind of balancing that fairness. But then the intention is for them to feel heard to their satisfaction. So
okay,
makes
sense.
So
Thanks.
who wants to go next? Okay, Kelly.
I can go. All right, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Let me pull up my timer. So today we're going to be doing an empathy circle. So the way this is going to work is we'll take turns. So at each turn, there'll be an active speaker and an active listener, and the other participants will be silent listeners, but we're going to be listening the whole time. So the active speaker will respond to the question or talk about whatever's on their mind in small chunks. And when they pause, the active listener is going to reflect or mirror what they're hearing. And so that will go on for 3 minutes at a time. And if the speaker feels like their thing being reflected to them they're not being heard, if it's not what they feel they were saying, then they can clarify and correct or add on to sort of make it more clear. But the idea is that you want to try to get the person get them to mirror or make it so that you're heard. I don't know, that wording might not be the best wording, but the point is for you to feel heard. That's what I'm trying to say. So when your time is up, I'm going to just hold up my phone like this. So you see the red, and you don't need to stop right away, but that's just to tell you that you can finish your thoughts, and then the person will reflect one last time when your turn's over. So we're not going to ever cut you off. And if you feel heard, you can say, I feel fully heard, or something like that. End your turn. And if you don't, you can sort of try to clarify, finish up your turn, but we want to try to end our turns feeling like we were heard. I think that's everything I was going to say. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, does anyone want to go first? All right, Susan. Oh, I did forget to explain something. So the way it'll work is that someone will start. So Susan's going to start. She will pick her active listener, and then when she is done, her active listener will then be the speaker. And so then they will pick someone. So that's how we will proceed through the process. Yes, Eli.
Is there a topic?
Ooh, yeah, there is a topic. Thank you. So the topic is, what are your concerns or questions, or maybe just concerns about becoming an empathy circle facilitator? And you can always just talk about something that's alive for you at the moment as well. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So who would you like to be?
Greg, are you available to be the listener?
Sure, yes.
Greg, I'm really touched by the paper right beside you. 400,000 Americans killed in World War II, 400,000 Americans killed with the coronavirus. It's very touching for me. I want to thank you for your service as a veteran. I'm reflecting that I'm a war baby. I was born and my father went in 1942, and my father went overseas about 4 months later, and we never saw him for 3 years. And when he came back, I realized we didn't have any young men in our lives growing up during that time.
Okay. you noticed the sign behind me, about 400,000 Americans killed, and you're grateful for my service. And you have experienced from your childhood that loss of having any males around because they went away and you didn't see him for 3 years.
Thank you. Picturing you as a veteran, I had an interesting experience. It just kind of comes up for me. When I was teaching, a large number of young men, they were all young men, came back from the Vietnam War. And we had no word for PTSD. They just come up behind my desk and start crying. Or they would talk about the temper tantrums that they would have at home. And we were pretty confused. We knew about shell shock. So this was really important part of my experience. And I found those young men who'd been in the service to bring a certain maturity, masculinity, confidence that the younger students recently out of high school. And I find myself wondering what your experience was.
You remember from when you were a teacher that guys coming back from Vietnam in the service there was no word or category for PTSD, but they would come behind your desk and cry and describe to you symptoms of what we now know called PTSD, such as tantrums. And it kind of makes you wonder what my experiences were.
Thank you so much. And I really am grateful for your service and your work now.
Oh, so you're grateful for my service and my work now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is
So
that time?
now the time was up while you were reflecting, but so Susan caught it, and that's she just So I think it's your turn now, and you can pick whoever you would like to be your listener.
Okay, and I got to clarify a procedural thing. If I'm done speaking before my time is up, that's okay, right? I can just say I'm done. And
you can at any time just say I feel heard, or something like that, and you can just give the rest of your time to the group. If you feel like that's all you have to say.
Okay. Brandon, would you like to listen to me?
Yes, I'm listening, Greg.
Okay. I almost feel like I should answer Susan's questions. I don't know if that's is that a problem or not?
Talk about whatever's alive for you right now. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just I'll try to keep this brief, but really quickly, the sign is partly covered up. It's actually 400,000 Americans were killed by nuclear weapons through decades. Right, not all at once, but through decades of testing, development, and accidents. So I'll pause.
Mm-hmm. So you first said, Greg, that you were feeling that you wanted to respond to Susan's questions and you weren't sure if that was appropriate, and then decided that it was, and you wanted to clarify that the sign behind you that says 400,000 Americans killed, the end of it says Americans killed by nuclear weapons, and that is death by nuclear weapons over the course of the whole nuclear program and in all different possible ways that they could be killed as a result.
Yes. The topic About empathy circles, one thing that I truly have an internal conflict about this. There are times when, I think I said this in an earlier circle, I don't want to empathize. There are times when I just want to get on a, you know, I want to, people who don't agree with my point of view, I just want to push them out of the way. You know, I don't feel like sharing or compromising.
So what I'm hearing is that one conflict you have around empathy circles is that sometimes you don't feel like empathizing, and when someone's viewpoints don't align with yours, you kind of want to just push them aside.
Yes, like a good example is I tend to think that capitalism is a really cruel and inhumane system, and that we need to get rid of it. But then I sometimes hear people give good arguments who say that, well, yes, it has flaws, but it's probably the best system we can come up with. And I don't know how to deal with that.
So an example is around the way that you feel about capitalism and how you feel it's a cruel system. And when people express their opinions about capitalism that that oppose yours, that sometimes have arguments that are compelling, you're not sure how to deal with that.
Right. Yes. And one of my problems with capitalism is that it's based on the idea that anybody who wants to can work hard and do well economically. But I don't, okay, time, I see. I don't know that I believe, I'm not so sure I believe that's true.
So you're describing capitalism as a system that will allow people to succeed if they work hard, and you're not so sure that that's the case.
That's right. I feel hurt. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Kelly.
Listening.
So what I was sharing earlier around the experience with my father is still alive right now. So I'm going to continue with that. My father expressed a lot of sadness and anger and the feelings of having been deceived and manipulated by me because I wasn't what he describes as that I wasn't transparent from the start about my intentions in the circle, and that they felt to him that they were somehow self-serving so that the circle could be the way that I wanted it to be.
So you're returning to this subject of your empathy circle that you had with your father, and you mentioned that he felt like you had deceived or manipulated him to bring him into it, and that you were kind of orchestrating the circle to be something that you wanted it to be.
Yeah. And it was really challenging listening to him. I was feeling a lot of emotions and noticing how much harder it was for me to listen, that it was really pushing my edge. And as he was saying things that were making me feel as though I had done something wrong, my brother's partner was also expressing that, like supporting my father in his views. So I was feeling like shame waves, and at the same time feeling that this was, what was coming up was very useful, and there was like something worthwhile under it. And I was working really hard to hold the tension, feeling like that I was bearing the full load of the tension in the group, and it was really challenging.
So some of these dynamics in the empathy circle that you had were kind of pushing you to the edge of sort of like your comfort edge, I guess. And your brother's partner sort of voiced agreement with some of the things that your father said, and that sort of added to this dynamic, and you were experiencing some shame, and it was overall you have a sense that this was like a healthy process, I think.
Yeah. So the question that I sit with here is like, you know, do the ends justify the means in the way that I like sort of allowed there to be tension by withholding information from my father so there would be tension? Is that disingenuous? Does that break any rules? And even if it does break rules, does it matter? Because like what happened in the end was beautiful. The depth of emotion that my father expressed and the way that I felt that I was able to connect with him and with my brother and his partner as well in the process. And in the end, like I mentioned in my check-in earlier, that it just opened up this whole new door, like brought tension, very, very old tension up to the surface that we'd forgotten about, that seems to be blocking the next level of our relationship. And now it's on the table.
So this whole issue this whole sort of dynamic of tension and shame that you described, you said, makes you kind of wonder if the ends justify the means, because overall you feel like the unfolding of this circle and all these different dynamics led to you kind of bringing up a lot of old tension and bring you to like a new place in your relationship with your father, that I guess that would be the ends that you feel have a lot of value, even though the means of actually going through it seemed like maybe there was a lot of those dynamics that you already talked about.
Exactly. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. I know that was a lot. I feel fully heard.
Okay, well, this could be a good closing time then. So how was that for you, Kelly? And then we'll hear from others for any feedback.
I felt like for my intro, I kind of like spaced out a little bit. I guess I probably would, I guess what I should probably do is make like a little bulleted list with just like, here's the 6 things or whatever. Because I feel like I'm pretty good at freestyling, but I'm prone to just forget stuff. So I don't want to forget the whole thing. So just have like, don't forget about time limit, topic, like that kind of stuff maybe. I don't think I want like a script though. But yeah, I think the timing and stuff felt okay for me. Yeah, I think in my instructions, I might want to include something to help people think about like how much to say at a time. Not because of not like any of you particularly needed that, but that's something I thought I should have I think is good to let people realize, like, if I talk doing the timer, you realize like, some people talk for like 1 minute and 30 seconds at a time. Some people talk for like 20 seconds at a time, and that's like a pretty big difference, so yeah, I think that's my main takeaways.
Okay, so any feedback from anyone? Eli is being not speaking. Says, Kelly, I was impressed with how well you reflected while being concerned about the time.
Oh, that leaves me wondering how long did I speak after the timer was up? Because I know I speak with my eyes closed, and
the timer was stopped, so I don't know. I didn't look.
Well, thank you for allowing me to finish. Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah.
So sorry. Kelly, I just saw you finding your way through the introduction, and I thought it came out well, and appreciated that you were speaking right to us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of have a general question, or not a question, but an observation, that when you're doing the introduction, it's a kind of to me, it's a little hard to find the balance. Like, I don't want to say too much so that people don't remember things. But on the other hand, I think it can be jarring if the facilitator has to step in, and they might have been able to prevent that by saying one more thing. So I don't know where, where exactly. Like the thing I'm thinking of is pick the listener then becomes the speaker and picks an active listener. But what if it starts being just between 2 or maybe 3 of the people and somebody over here is getting left out? So then the facilitator can step in and say, well, so-and-so hasn't spoken for quite a while, so would you mind picking that person? But as I said, an interruption by this facilitator can depends on the group, I'm sure, but it can be jarring, a little bit jarring. So what if you added that to the introduction? But then maybe are you giving people too much to remember?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Kelly. It's not like you want to respond to that.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting. So one thing that makes me think about that I thought about before is, well, so I don't have like a direct answer to that. I mean, I think kind of could work either way, but it makes me think about there's probably there seems like there's a big difference. I don't know yet because I haven't experienced all the potentials, but it seems like there's like a big difference between like facilitating an empathy circle, like in a context of like general population, completely random people, right? That's like one kind. And then there's like a kind of more like this, that's like strangers, but kind of self-selected, similar group with similar people. Like we're all kind of, we're not gonna, there's no like whack job risk, in this empathy circle, right? We're all gonna be pretty much sticking to the rules and whatever. And then there's also like what Brandon had, which is like close, intimate people who know each other really well. Actually, I have had one with my family, I forgot. Or like close group of friends, right? And I feel like what you brought up, Greg, like that would be, those kind of things would be different depending, you kind of have to, it maybe seems like the instructions, the way you would approach it are going to be different in those kinds of like different scenarios is my sense.
Yeah, and I'd also add that you can also prepare people. I always actually try to send out the how-to videos, send out the PDF to prepare people as much as possible before they take part. So I've already had the first initial, and then I'm just and then the other part. So yeah, a lot of prep beforehand. There's 2 videos. There's a 9-minute video and 24-minute video, and there's a 1-page PDF. Another thing we need, I think, for this is to have more of a bullet point page where we kind of have that up. And also the other thing is you can also, again, it's on the context. Like here, everybody knows how to do the empathy circle. If they didn't, if it was all new people, you can say, oh, I'll be the first listener just to model the listening. So that kind of helps to. So yeah, it all depends, like you're saying, the context is, there's a lot of different approaches. So, okay, so we should move on. Next person, Susan or Greg? Susan, okay, you're up.
Welcome to this empathy circle. I am practicing being a facilitator today. Eli has a sore throat and is an observer. So an empathy circle, I think of empathy as truly understanding, appreciating what another person is saying and feeling and meaning, and to communicate my understanding so that they feel heard and understood. So in this process today, we'll take turns being speaker and listener. And the speaker, choose either a concern or interest you have in being a facilitator or anything that's working you, that's alive and wanting to be talked about. Say 2 or 3 sentences and then pause, please, so that the listener has a chance to reflect back what the listener heard. I encourage people to try to reflect the essence of what the other person has said. And then the speaker can say whether he or she feels heard and understood or not. I'd like to add that when we listen to people and repeat what they have said, we're not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing. We're just checking our understanding. So the speaker will speak for a few sentences. The listener reflects back. The others of us will listen quietly. So I guess it's about 3 minutes for each person to speak. And I'll see if I can keep track of my phone. We'll go around so that everybody gets included. So if you're the speaker, you can choose someone to listen, and the listener becomes the next speaker. And we will choose one another around the circle until we've all had a chance. How does that sound? Any questions? Probably you, like I, often think about what we'd like to say next. This listening is a real skill, sometimes biting our tongue and staying with the other person. You may experience that too. Who'd like to go first? Hello. Hi, Kelly. So I too am challenged to have my phone and listen. So who would you like to have listen to you, Kelly?
Brandon, would you be my listener?
Yes, Kelly. I'm listening.
Sorry, I actually was just, I know what the topic is, but I was just like, Susan, say the topic? I don't remember. But I don't actually think I want to talk about that, but it just came to mind.
Your concerns or interest in being a facilitator or anything that's alive for you. Kind of, I speak from your heart. What's wanting to get said?
I guess I zoned out during the instructions, and that's why I didn't remember. Sorry. But the thing that's alive for me is that a minute ago I said something about there not being any whack jobs, and I was thinking that that's like not a very empathetic choice of words just to use. And it was became aware that this is like recorded for all the people to watch in the future or whatever, and here I am talking about the whack jobs that are probably going to show up in empathy circles.
Mm-hmm. So first, you were expressing how you couldn't quite remember what the question was and weren't sure if you even wanted to address the question. And then remember you were reminded what the question was. And you expressed that you noticed that during your during the feedback earlier, during the debriefing from your facilitation, you realized that you had used the word whack job, and that it feels to you that it's not such an empathetic term to use, and that you're expressing awareness that this is being recorded and might be shared, and that you will be immortalized as saying whack job.
Yeah, pretty much. And I also noted, I realized that part of the reason I zoned out during the instructions is because I got distracted by my phone, and I just sort of realized that like the choice to like look at your phone and be distracted from what what I'm listening to is like based on this like assumption that when I'm not paying attention, I will just like, oh, I'm still here. Like, it's like I don't even realize that I'm choosing to stop paying attention. I don't know. I just kind of had this observation about what it's like to be distracted, sort of, where it's like, oh, like it's still just noise coming in my ears. So as long as it's coming in my ears, I guess that's all that it means to be listening, you know? And then I didn't even know if I missed anything or not, because obviously I wasn't paying attention.
So I think what I'm hearing you say, Kelly, is that you recognize that you zoned out during the instructions because you got distracted by your phone, and that you're noticing what it's like, what the experience of being distracted is like, that you're looking at your phone, but still the noise, the noise of the person speaking was coming in. And so you didn't quite notice that you were distracted because the noise was still coming in. And that is like, you're asking yourself, is that enough? Is that like what listening is? Did I get that?
Yeah, well, so I guess to clarify, it wasn't so much like, I don't know if I didn't ask the question, is that what listening is or not? But I was more just noticing that it seems like I just kind of by default, like the distracted behavior is like, oh, well, I can do whatever I want. And since the noise is still coming in my ears, that's like good enough, you know, in my distracted mind.
Right. So yeah, so it's more about the fact that because noise is coming into your ears, that's good enough so that you can, like, that it gives you permission to be distracted.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, Greg.
Okay, sure.
First, what's on top right now is, although Kelly said that he felt heard, I feel like I still didn't quite catch something at the end there, and he was being kind.
Okay. You're not sure you caught everything Kelly was saying, and maybe he was being kind and just giving you a pass.
Yeah. And I'm finding it a little bit ironic that he's talking about being distracted, and that, like, somehow it felt like maybe my not catching everything was because I was distracted somehow by something else. So.
Okay. So there's irony. You're noticing irony that Kelly was talking about being distracted, and you're perhaps exemplifying that yourself.
Yeah. I'm feeling like when I was facilitating my family circle yesterday, there's so many things that came up that I wanted to ask about today, and like none of them are coming up. And I was thinking about during the circle, oh, I should write this all down, and also didn't want to write things down to take me away from the circle. Now, yeah, now I'm feeling that it would have been nice to have the things written down.
So when you facilitated the circle with your family yesterday, you noticed so many things that were perhaps something you want to maybe ask about today, but you didn't want to be taken away or taken out of the circle in your mind, so you didn't write things down, and now you're kind of wishing you had those things in front of you so you could bring them up.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like what's with me the most is curiosity around what it's like to facilitate a higher stakes circle when the participants have some sort of conflict or have opposition or are, you know, different viewpoints diametrically opposed or something. Yeah.
You are, I don't know if curious is the right word. You're wondering what it would be like to facilitate a circle where their stakes are high because people actually have active conflicts. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop before I start a new thread there.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg. I feel fully heard.
Okay. Okay. Susan, would you want to listen?
I'd be delighted to listen, and I need to keep track of time as well. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, kind of covering ground that I already covered, but Brandon brought it up, is the curiosity and in my, I'm not putting this on Brandon, but me personally, it's trepidation about being in a circle with sort of high stakes, people who have, you know, kind of live wire disagreements.
Yeah, some real concern here about facilitating when people are in opposition or polarized, high stakes.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little distracted right now because, sorry, it's been really dry here and we're anticipating there might be some precipitation today. So I have the window open that much. So I keep looking to see if it's going to start. I apologize.
Is it raining yet?
No. Well, I think that part of my problem is I'm hanging around with two groups that they're not in opposition, but there's sort of different approaches to making positive change for the world. And one is my left-leaning friends who we believe, and I think it's true, with Black Lives Matter and the pandemic and the almost coup that we had and all that's going on, there's a chance now to really make some positive change for the better. Okay, I'll pause there.
Okay, so you're involved with two groups, and the left-leaning group is concerned discussing the pandemic, Black Lives Matter, and the almost coup we just had.
Mm-hmm. And the door that these things open for real change.
Oh yes, thank you.
On the other hand, and it's so easy, I said earlier, like sometimes I wish I could just push people out of the way who don't agree with me, you know, just get rid of them, marginalize them, something. And of course, I admit I'm thinking of Republicans, and when I say this often, you can't do anything without bringing everybody along. I mean, I don't have all the answers. My left-leaning friends don't have all the answers. You need everybody. And nothing will work if a large number of people are cut out.
Yeah. Were you complete there, Greg?
Oh, yes, yes.
Uh-huh. So when you really don't agree with people, it's harder to empathize. You'd rather push them aside. And yet deeper in your heart, you know, we can't move forward without bringing everybody aboard. Two different inclinations inside yourself.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you.
Okay, so we could bring that to a close. So Susan, how was the facilitation and get feedback?
Well, the frustration is working my damn phone to I felt new at introducing this. I brought in a couple of things that might not have been in an introduction before, but I think that it's worth trying that and seeing how it flies. The timing is a little distracting. I really find myself interested in each one of you.
So
Others-
any feedback? You want any comments, feedback on that? Hey, Greg, back. So we're just giving feedback. Any feedback for Susan?
I can relate to the phone thing. That is something, maybe it's my age, but fiddling with the timer and trying to listen at the same time seemed very challenging.
I actually have I didn't have it nearby to use my phone, but I have like a little egg timer or like a digital little like square timer, and it's just like, I just set it, and then when it beeps, you just push the button and the screen doesn't turn off. So it's just, that's what I used last time, and it's definitely easier. You don't even have to look at it. You just push the button. When it beeps, you push the button again. But yeah, I liked Susan's, you have a locution, like a style of speaking that's very facilitative, I guess, probably because you have a lot of experience, and this probably is something kind of, you have this like sense of what you're doing or something, it seems. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I also feel that there's something about the way, like your cadence and the words you choose and your pacing it's very inviting, very soothing. It just makes me like, oh yeah, I want to do this. Yeah. and I appreciated your like little sort of embellishments of talking about what empathy means to you, and a couple of other little pieces like that I felt yeah, just were nice little additions to the introduction to help set the context.
Yeah, I'll second that too. The extra, oh, this is what empathy is, kind of gives a little bit bigger picture, kind of a motivation for doing the process. So yeah, that is interesting.
Thank you.
Okay, and yeah, the timer, it's also a distraction. It's like having to do the timing, keeping track of everyone. So as being a facilitator and a participant, there's, I always find a section of my consciousness is, tracking. I'm watching all the breakout rooms. I'm watching this, and you can't be, it's a little hard to be fully kind of present. I mean, for myself at least. So it is there's a little stress for, yeah. Was that something, Kelly, or just?
Yeah. Is it ever like, if you were doing this like as part, like if you were facilitating empathy circling like as a like service, like you came to some group or something, I mean, would you normally just not participate? Is that like or is it kind of always?
Part of it is you're always a participant, so that adds the sense of equality to it. And ideally, the goal is for everyone to learn how to do it. So there's actually, you don't even need a facilitator, right? If we all knew how to do it, we have a family conflict, let's do let's do the empathy circle, let's get started, and everybody sort of holds it. So we're really trying to get everyone to sort of hold it and kind of have less power in the facilitator to kind of spread that power and responsibility.
Yeah, that's actually, I've thought about how it would have been really interesting if my family did this when I was a kid. The way you just phrased it made me think like, oh, like, so if my sister and my parents were having a fight, it would be like, oh, I have to facilitate the, like the kids, whoever is least involved is the facilitator. So like, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, you can call it. Anyone in the family can call it. So I've done empathy circles with 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds, mediating their conflict. So it's amazing how early they can start with it. But just to be on track with time, Greg, do you want to go? It'll be a bit shorter for you, but.
That's fine. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Empathy Circle. I am the facilitator today, and we're going to have the topic of concerns and ideas or thoughts about being a facilitator of empathy circles. But you can also speak about whatever's on your mind and heart, unrelated to that whatsoever, if you want. The way it works is someone is the speaker, and that person chooses another person in the circle to be the active listener. And the speaker talks for a little while, maybe 2 or 3 sentences, and then pauses, and the active listener says back and reflects back what they heard. And this is going to, because of the size of our group, it's going to be for 3-minute turns. At the end of after each break for reflecting, the speaker can go back to talking and maybe clear up something, but if they were heard, they continue on with their next thought. And then at the end of the 3 minutes, if you're still speaking, go ahead and finish. I'll hold up a phone just to indicate end of time. And likewise, if you're in the middle of reflecting, just finish that. And then the person who's been the active listener becomes a speaker and chooses someone else to be the active listener. And you can choose whoever you want to be your listener, but try to keep track, if you will, of who hasn't had a chance to speak for a while, so that everybody's pretty much got a same amount of time as the speaker. My part will be, maybe I may have to step in if something isn't quite getting through, or if a speaker is getting frustrated, feeling not heard. Other than that, we're all holding this circle together, and the people who are not speaking or reflecting are actively listening and kind of helping to provide a sort of a space for the person who wants to express their thoughts. So to start, are there any questions? Okay, so I'll go first as a listener, and who wants to be the speaker, the first speaker? Kelly.
Why not?
Okay, let me get my little timer going here. Okay, go ahead.
So I actually was feeling pretty curious about some of the things that Greg said, that you said in your last time that you spoke. I feel like you mentioned one group of people that you spent a lot of time with, but I don't think you ever mentioned the second group. You said you spent a lot of time around 2 different groups. And I heard you talk about the sort of left-leaning groups, but then I was like, who's the other group? I don't recall hearing, maybe I missed it.
Okay, you are curious about, from what I said earlier, the 2 groups I hang out with, one being the left-leaning group, and I never really clarified what the other group is. And so you're curious about that.
Yeah. Yeah, also hearing you sort of talk about some of the, I guess what I would think of as like culture war dynamics made me want to invite you or ask you if you are like aware of some of like the online communities that I'm like in touch with, like around the ideas of like mimetic tribes and mediation of the culture war stuff. And there's like all these ideas that kind of try to get above those like conflicts to sort of see it as like a bigger picture.
Okay, and so you're wondering if I might be aware of some of the online groups that are interested in getting above or outside of the culture war environment and getting a bigger picture.
Yeah, I guess the reason I thought about it is because I had a lot of like tension, or I mean, I still do, like being in touch with people who are really activated and really like really, I don't know, there's a Bob Dylan lyric that always comes to my mind, like, fearing not, I become my enemy in the moment that I preached. So like that vibe, which I don't know if that's going to carry over to you, but that always gives me tension because it's like you said, everyone has to be all together. So when I discovered these online groups, it gave me a new perspective that kind of helped me alleviate some of that tension.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that was a lot.
So then there's your just you're conscious of the possibility of becoming I'd almost say compromised when the moment you start to preach, you become your enemy. And so how do you work this? Sorry, now it's telling me I have to, having issues here. I'm sorry. That reflection kind of fell apart, but I heard you saying that you're getting a better perspective through these groups that are online. Excuse me, I have to do something with this. Oh, okay, I figured it out. I hope you feel heard.
I feel better. I feel better than heard.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I do feel. I feel heard, and I also am empathetic. That I gave you this huge thought, and then right in the middle of it, your phone went off. It was a lot all at once. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, just for time, we only have 10 minutes. I'm just setting out the broadcast that we have 10. So if we can get a feedback, you know, for you, how was that? And then we can just have a few minutes to sort of continue on.
Yes. Well, again, the thing about trying to pay attention and managing a timer is tricky. And I think what Kelly said about forget you trying to fool around with your phone, that totally makes sense. I mean, a kitchen timer or something, because there's no, I mean, on my phone, there's extra buttons you can push that all of a sudden something else starts happening. So I think that's a really good, it's very simple technology that would be a lot easier to use.
Well, yeah, I just want to say how I appreciated how it felt to me that you you stayed, in spite of the fact that you were having trouble with your timer, you stayed steady, and I appreciated that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I found the introduction very easy to follow. It seemed very practical, step by step. I could sort of imagine myself in each of the steps. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're muted, Susan.
I could feel your commitment to the process while you were describing it. You were right there. Yeah, it was like, whoa, if this guy got it on that level, I think I got something to get from here.
Well, thank you.
I actually forgot when you, at the beginning, when you talked about you felt concerned about how you would manage like a challenging person. I was like, oh, when he goes, I should just like try to go wild and start being like a real jerk, or if I was talking to someone else, you know, like interrupting them or something. But then I forgot about that, and then I still kind of made it weird for you by making my turn of talking about you. So it kind of worked out okay. So I feel like that didn't phase you, which I feel it probably can be a little awkward to like have someone basically ask you a question and then you're just reflecting it.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's interesting. Very interesting. Like I never thought of that, but what if somebody directly asks you a question, but you're the listener? You don't answer the question, you just reflect the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. And then my normal, I think everybody's normal urge is to answer the question. So.
Okay,
yeah, you stay nice and steady in that too, Greg.
Thank you.
So we have like 7 minutes. So anything in general about the facilitation? I'll say that it was a question about the high stakes empathy circles, and it's what I call a restorative empathy circle. So that's a bit of another layer for dealing with really difficult topics and issues. So it's moving into more serious conflict mediation, and we'll do something like a pre-circle. So as a facilitator, I'll listen to each of the parties, like your empathy buddy calls. It's like a call for 30 minutes to an hour where I would just listen to the individuals who are in the conflict to kind of give them an empathy bath. So it's like, oh, there's this high level of tension. You listen and to them, and that kind of reduces the tension. And you listen to all the parties, and then you bring them together. So somebody's listened, so that they've so it reduces the tension. So there's actually we need a whole separate module for that. Once you've taken this training, done it a few times, are able to train others, then have some modules for going into conflicts. And I have an article about having done it in my family, for example, which is one of the people say, if you can do it in your family, that's the hardest. So Brandon, you really jumped right into the deep end there, because that's, especially when you're involved, it's another tip for dealing with family is not going right into the deep end, but saying, let's have an empathy circle about something that's positive that's happened to you in the week or in the last month that you want to share. So the topic is not going right to the heart of the conflict, but developing trust in the process, and that people will be heard. So I just wanted to kind of share that about, the high stakes circles.
Yeah, my topic that I threw in was just what is your experience of participating in this empathy circle, which felt pretty benign, but it ended up not being benign. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been like, hey, what was something great that happened to you in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah,
so then you got this positive story, you're getting a reflection, you're kind of, joys shared or joys doubled, the sorrow shared or joy sorrows halved. So you're kind of accentuating the, the positive experience.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask one more. When you're doing the empathy bath one-on-one calls, it's the same format. You're just reflecting back.
Mm-hmm. It's like share how you are on this situation, and I'm just going to be reflecting for the full time. So it's almost like like you would do, and Carl Rogers would do with his empathic listening. Listen for an hour to a client. You're just being an empathic presence for them.
Okay, and you're not trying to fix anything. You're just listening.
That's it. No advice, no nothing. It's just exactly what we're doing in the circle, but extending it for 30 to 60 minutes. Yeah. That's why the Empathy Buddies calls is a bit of a practice for that.
Oh, okay.
About the family or difficult circles and the subject, I did an empathy circle with my family, which wasn't like super difficult, but we used this like the question which I got from a different modality, like authentic relating games, which is called Rosebud Thorn. And that was really useful because it gives people an option. So like the rose is something beautiful, the bud is something new that's like has potential in your life, and then the thorn is something that's like causing you frustration or like something difficult in your life. And so it's like, people can talk, it's like kind of if someone has something they want to talk about that's heavier, they can, but they don't have to. So it kind of gives you the option, and it worked pretty well for us.
Other thoughts, questions, comments?
Yeah, I do. You go ahead, Greg.
I was just gonna say real quick that it doesn't seem like this is too rigid. In other words, with the empathy bath call, you set the goal, say, for 30 minutes, but if the person you're talking with is kind of done, that's up to them, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
My
Have
question
you
is,
done mediation? Oh, just Susan
Yeah.
was wondering, have you done sort of used active listening for conflict mediation?
Yes, somewhat. And people seem to relax when they feel fully heard and understood. And you can kind of see the, yeah. And they don't have to keep driving their point home.
Okay, Brandon, you're
yeah, there was a point, some point today when someone began speaking and they asked a question whether like something was appropriate or not. And then the facilitator like responded to that question. Is that the appropriate thing to do, or should it just be that that's just one of the things that the speaker says and then the reflector reflects?
It depends. There's a kind of a, sometimes it's like a technical issue that they're wanting to kind of know about the structure, and I'll kind of, so it kind of depends.
Yeah.
Ideally, it's the listener just reflects that question.
Yeah.
So do you remember what it was, the context? I'm going to hit the close all rooms too, so people will be popping in. But what was the context?
I think, is it okay if I name?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it was Kelly when you were asking whether like it was appropriate. Do you remember with me? Can you remember with me here?
Yeah, it was actually Greg asked if it was okay. I was facilitating, and I think Greg asked if it was okay to talk about a certain thing, basically.
Yeah,
and then
right.
I said, yeah, you can like talk about whatever's alive for you in the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no hard and fast rule for me. It's like sometimes I try to keep in the reflection, it kind of depends. Like that was more of a technical sort of an issue, and you can, I don't know if that's really answering it, but
yeah, no, it makes sense that it's not going to be hard and fast. Yeah.
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 And then it sometimes doesn't really sort of matter either one way or the other. Depends on the group. If it's a lot of conflict and tension, then you got to kind of watch what you're doing more to be fair, to hold that sense of fairness. Okay, well, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Evan.
Oh, there's a cat.
Cat.
Okay, welcome back. I think Timothy, you're up.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome back. My mind was still in our small group. That was a rich practice session, and I'm really appreciating the learning by doing, and the mutual regard that we were able to give each other in supporting our learning, our mutual learning. So I'm touched by that, taking that in. So we wanted to use this time. We've got about another 30 minutes in our time together as a group for our second session, Empathy Circles training. And we'd like to invite each of you to consider sharing, maybe up to 1 minute, maybe even a little bit less, just a few words about your experience and insights. And the questions we'd like you to consider answering is this. Number one, how was your experience? And how might it have changed your feelings about facilitating, your experience just now in practicing? And number two, you might want to comment on what strengths did you notice about yourself as an Empathy Circle facilitator? And in what area do you see potential challenges or maybe growth? So what I'll do is I'll call on folks so that we can move more quickly, and then remind you at the end of 1 minute, I'll hold my hand up or say a little something to do that. And I also invite the trainers to track, what questions or challenges come up, so we can, really continue to support everybody's learning. So, and maybe even right at the end, we'll have a couple responses or tips depending on what comes up. Okay. In my screen, I'm just going to go vertically and horizontally here. So Susan, I'd invite you to share for a little bit less than a minute, either one of those questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see us all moving forward at our own pace in our own way. I appreciate that a couple people worked with family members and even delved into family conflict. And I see that as taking a lot of courage. I'm looking forward to learning more about being a good facilitator. And I always find it wonderful getting to know people. A concern in our group about running into polarization and people in conflict, and people seem willing to learn about that and wanting some more skills.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. It's about a minute. Okay, next, Brandon. I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, thanks. I found it quite natural to be in a facilitator role. Giving instructions came pretty naturally to me. Yeah, I mean, a lot came up for me just around the intensity that I experienced in my circle with my family. So I guess I noticed really quickly the challenges of being a facilitator, being part of the holding the tension, and also being part of the tension, and how to juggle all of that at once. Yeah, and I also noticed that I wasn't too bad at it for a first go around. So I'm looking forward to future challenges like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Brandon. Kelly, you're next if you'd like to share. The questions are in chat there if you want to review those. Your experience, your feelings, strengths and challenges.
I think I had more like practical things that got clarified. So one thing I think I'm going to do is make myself like a sort of bullet of just like bulleted list of like, you know, name the time limit, you know, say that people pick the next person, not like a script, but just so that I don't forget stuff. And also one thing that I was reminded by this experience is that this kind of timer is a lot easier to use than a phone, because like we all experienced the annoyance of messing with a phone, and I was getting distracted by my phone. So that's something I'm going to try to kind of like standardize those kind of things. Yeah, I think that's good enough for now. Practical improvements are always good.
Yes, agreed. Thanks, Kelly. Greg.
Yes. Well, one thing that I thought was great was what Kelly said about simplifying the technology. I was really fumbling. And also just hearing about the pathway of distraction. I guess Kelly said this as well. The way my mind works with our multitasking culture is I'm still hearing your voice, so I must be doing okay. And then they're done speaking, and I suddenly realize I didn't get that. You know, so it's kind of, now I feel like I'm more aware of how distraction creeps in. And I really like what Edwin said about, because I'm still nervous about facilitating, but the goal, I didn't really realize this, but the goal is to get everybody in the circle gradually feeling more and more comfortable, so that pretty soon the facilitator has less work to do and the people in the circle hold the circle. So I thought that was really great. And I do want to say this before my turn is up. I really am grateful to, especially to everybody here, but especially those of you who are getting up at the crack of dawn or staying up past any godly hour to take part in this in other parts of the world. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Greg, for naming that. Okay, great. Let's see here. Sharon, go ahead if you'd like to share.
Hiya. Okay. What have I written down? Right. So, like our last speaker said, Greg, I get nervous too. And I was nervous at my circle this morning, and I was a bit nervous earlier as well. You feel like the pressure's on you to deliver and to do it the best you can. So there's definitely a nerves element, but it was fine. Just the one we just did was fine. But exactly like Kelly said, exactly the same. I need to prepare with a better checklist with bullet points, and I think that will make me have confidence, and I'll have it all written down and I can just go through it and not waffle on. I can just kind of keep to the points and make sure that I include everything and get it done properly. My strengths, I do have facilitating experience in my background, so I feel like I can deal with the practical side, like timing and running a meeting type thing. But the potential challenges wise, it's all the other stuff which I haven't really, I haven't really dealt with. So all the emotional stuff, conflicts, people, as a little bit this morning of people not sticking to rules. Somebody had said, oh, we don't really like rules. And I want to say at the end of everybody speaking, I want to make a comment about what they've said. So I guess it's dealing with that side of things, which is where I see the challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharon. George.
Oh my goodness. Okay. It was great learning today, and the practicing and the sharing. I love the safety of being able to just be each other and not have to worry about being perfect, so that we can then be open to learning these tips and tricks to be more present more frequently for each other in the group. And although I also tend to want to be prepared, I'm trying to learn how to kind of be in the moment and allow life to happen, you know, with those that are present. I was patting myself on the back a little bit for the circle I did this past week on stepping out in the facilitator role, where I would normally rather avoid conflict and kind of, you know, oh my goodness, it's time's up. Let's move on, do the rest of our life. I was actually speaking up in the facilitator role to guide the process. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Cody.
Thank you. This experience was really great. It really, having a lot of appreciation and I'm just very excited about the depth of this practice and modality. And that just keeps deepening my excitement to wanna, at first I was like, oh, I entered shame that I haven't done a circle, and now I'm leaving this thing, going to hop on calls and try to have one tonight, because I'm so excited about what this thing is, the depth of it for both myself and others, and just wanting to explore that more and more. So that's very cool. Strengths, because I like talking so much, I have made it a point to learn how to do it better and allow a lot more room for others. It's become a skill of communication and conversing with others, being precise with my words. And so in that, I like to facilitate and to have precision in communication. Notice when others are taking up their little bit time and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm stoked.
Thanks so much, Cody.
Yeah, thank you.
Right on. Diane.
Hi. I thought it was a great experience, the group today, and I came away with a lot of thoughts about specific things that would be good to incorporate as a facilitator. I don't feel anxious or worried about it. I do see how, yeah, it'll be something to, grow with and get better at. But just being more aware of the thing, how I did, and seeing when other people are doing it, I can pick up on that, oh, this was a good idea. Oh, I liked how they did that one. And so I can, you know, begin to incorporate different pieces of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane. Kian, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciated my experience today. But I found it challenging to still be as present as, you know, I am when I'm just participating and facilitating. You know, I'm watching the time and I gotta keep track. I found it challenging to do that and just really be, especially when I'm the active listener, really receiving what somebody's saying. But I think, you know, I guess it takes practice and time to be able to incorporate those more smoothly. But I felt, you know, I don't feel like it's, for me, I need to, you know, make a list of things that I need to hold on to. And I feel like the most important things I've learned about, I realize, like, about facilitating, I've learned from participating in a circle. It's not like, yes, I appreciate what, you know, I'm being taught, but it's going to be helpful, but it's just not the same. There's something more than the instructions that I'm learning just from doing it.
Thanks, Kian. Leslie, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really, I guess, after the experience today, really appreciating sort of the comfortableness of the wonkiness, you know, that as I'm navigating it, it's kind of, you know, it's creaking and groaning a little, but because of the group, because of, you know, the people that I'm sharing the experience with, it feels more than okay to be there. Yeah, I think I'm noticing that I'm sort of departing from a really like be prepared, take my notes and, you know, learn what I'm doing and then do it. Like, I'm noticing that I'm moving away from that sort of a way of approaching it into okay, I'll try it like this now, and just sort of meeting it as it is. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it keeps unfolding.
Thank you, Leslie. Kate.
Yeah, the experience today was really useful, and I'm taking away, yeah, just some really useful tips for how to, I suppose, manage like some of the boundaries as a facilitator, and doing that in a way that is, you know, is firm but fair and not too intrusive. So yeah, that I'm really happy about. And I've realized, you know, I've probably been really lucky with the circles I've facilitated so far. They've all been really lovely. No conflict at all. So maybe I'll take away some humility that perhaps things could be more challenging. And I just wanted to say thanks, Greg, for recognizing that some of us are nearly asleep. That's me. It's far too late for me. So yeah, I'm really desperately trying not to fall asleep now. So I hope my eyes will still be open for the next 10 minutes.
Cool. Thank you, Kate. Yeah, stay with us. Deborah.
Yeah, super helpful. Have it all practicing the introductions, seeing the different styles. Yeah, and knowing that that's going to be a process repeated, and, you know, give me plenty of time to find, you know, my own style, you know, find my own voice. Really interesting topics came up around challenges, empathy burnout, looking at where, how empathy could be misused. Yeah, all really interesting stuff to take a deeper look at. So yeah, looking forward to more. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Deborah. Nadav.
Yeah, I feel very grateful for the experience. The guys from my breakout room, they helped me get and to get to know you a little bit more. It was fun, and yeah, I think my experience was good. The feedback was very valuable for me, though it was it was the end of our time, but I needed it and I wanted it, and I really appreciate the feedback. It helps me learn. And this is what I came to do, to learn. So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Nadav. Jane.
Yeah, I feel really grateful about this experience, and I also learn a lot by practicing, by doing that. And also one of the very important points of my own reflection is that I feel like I set my own limits because language is something big barrier to me. That's what I thought, but actually all those are challenges that I face is the same thing that others are faced. So that's what I felt through this time, the empathy circle. So I thought maybe this is because of I'm non-native speaker, but I found that others also have the same concern and same challenges like that I have. So I felt like, yeah, I should not set my own limits on this. So maybe these are the same things. So that's what I felt, and I happy to get to know about it. And thank you for the members of my empathy circle. Yeah.
Thank you, Jane. Heather.
Our practice today is really good, and I think that we got some really good practical tips on how to handle. I guess there was a little concern about if participants are not following the agreements that we made, or the process and the crosstalk or comments, or not reflecting well. So it just felt really calming and relaxed, okay, we can handle all that. So it felt good.
Thank you, Heather. And Kat, thanks for your patience. You're the last one in my screen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I also echo what was just said as well, that there's a bit more confidence now that you see other people with the same kind of things. And also what Jane said about the beliefs, because you have a belief about something, but then the feedback was really valuable to actually think, oh, it's actually coming across that way, and I'm thinking it's another way. And I think it's also, for me, it's just seeing examples of how to politely interrupt people, I think would be good for me to have some tips about, so that I'm not being too aggressive but too passive either. So some ideas on word patterns there would be really useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for offering your insights and where you're at and what your questions are and your challenges. I did ask our trainers to pay attention to this process, but at the same time, trainers, we're learning all the time too. So maybe you can share a moment if you had something that you wanted to, or maybe for the next 3 minutes or so, comment to some of the themes you heard in terms of some tips or some encouragement for the group. So I'm talking to Bill and Lou and Edwin and at this point. Yeah, and Shoshana, if you have any thoughts.
No, I just wanted to, I was really impressed with the intellectual horsepower in the group. no big deal, except that I really kind of revisited the question myself, and I find that that was very helpful for me. And also just sharing my authentic feelings about it, I think also seemed to find resonance with other people. So that was, a lot of things worked. I'm very grateful. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I'll add. So I love the group that I was in, and loved getting to know the people, and I wished we'd had more time to practice. That's my, always feel that way. A couple of comments about things that people said in the debrief here. So one was what Kian said about having to track the time and keeping track of all that stuff. One of the reasons I always use a timer that makes a sound is so that I don't have to pay attention to the timer. I don't have to give any attention to it at all. It will make a sound and then I'll know the time is up. Because I find it very distracting if I'm trying to keep time just on a regular clock and I have to keep looking at it to see where it is. That's very distracting for me, particularly when I'm trying to be a listener. So I recommend that. I also wanted to say something about taking notes. I don't think anyone said about this in the debrief, but there was a question about it in the feedback form. And I used to, is it okay for people to take notes during an empathy circle? And I always, when I was doing empathy circles face to face, I would always put half sheets of paper and pencils in the middle of the table. So that somebody wanted to make notes about things they wanted to talk about when it was their turn to speak, they could do that. And I would actually give them that instruction. And I had a big attitude actually about people taking notes when they were the listener, because I was making the judgment that, well, if you're taking notes, you're not really present and you're just, it's very mechanical and da, 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 da. And after a bunch of experience, I realized, some people need to take notes because that's the only way they can feel safe and comfortable and relaxed. And some people actually also listen better when they are engaged in some kind of kinetic activity. And the notes actually help them be more present. So I wanted to share that and be accepting of anybody taking notes, any kind of notes they want to take. Yeah.
I wanted to call time there, Lou.
Okay.
So I want to move over to Edwin a moment. I do want to say that some of the questions there, like, Sharon mentioned, other folks would mention, dealing with polarization, challenge, emotional, stuff. One of the deepest intentions of this training, the next few sessions, is to practice those kinds of challenges and to be in the hot seat with support next time. So I want to reassure you that we're going to be doing that. And once again, leave your questions in the feedback form. We're all reading that. So I just want to hand it over to Edwin here to close us out for the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay, thanks. So I just add that I really enjoyed hearing all the insights. So for me, it's like how to harvest those learnings and those insights and how to document them, how to organize them, and how to make them available to others. So if you have any thoughts on that, let me know. And so that kind of helps me make the path a bit smoother for others. I just wanted to mention that we have the assignments. There'll be, again, we have the feedback session survey, and I'm going to put that link in there. Thanks to everyone that filled it out last time. You'll have another empathy buddy call. We'll send out an email with new pairings of people to connect with. And then also, again, try to hold the empathy circle with family, friends, whoever. And also there'll be a link to the challenges, a list of challenges. If you want to review those challenges and write in any of those, you can also add challenges, comments about the challenges in the feedback form as well. So we're sort of harvesting those challenges and we'll try to address those. So I think that's kind of it for me. If you want to, on that feedback form, I'll put that link in right now. Again, that's let me see, put that into the chat window. So if you click on that, you can actually fill out the form right away, right after we close this, so you don't forget. So just click on that, it should open up a window and you can just fill that out. So I think that's it for me. Anything else, Bill, Lou, or I think we didn't hear from Shoshona. Maybe we could just hear a quick, Shoshona, are you there? If we just hear a quick debrief from you, because I think you were the one person.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the folks in my circle. I felt really privileged to be in the room with them today. And I think we uncovered some great questions. We took the last 15 minutes and did a debrief in our room, which was really helpful, I think, to me to clarify. Sometimes as I clarify things for others, I'm hearing it for the first time. I'm a verbal processor. So I just appreciate the vulnerability in the group. And we had a great session. And the people in my room also have some really good feedback and questions about challenges that I'm sure, Edwin, you'll be receiving from them. So yeah, it was great. Thank you so much for putting this all together for us, you guys. Really appreciate it.
And we didn't hear from Eli, but we're trying to save her throat. So did you want to say anything, or are you just feeling it's up to you? Because I know you're dealing with throat.
It's really hard to participate when I can't talk.
Well, we're really glad for your participation. You were in our group. Just to have your warm presence there was a delight. So I'm glad you could make it. The ears still work. So, okay, well, maybe we'll end then. Oh, sorry, Luda, you think you're about to say something. Did you have something in closing?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I had one more note that I made, but it's okay. We could talk about it next time.
Okay, well, with that, we're right on the schedule. So jazz hands as we and the facilitators stay after. See you next week. And there'll be some challenges. You'll be dealing with some more challenges possibly there next week. Yeah.
Have a good week, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hey, Kelly.